city's on fire, every moment we live, it's a heart's desire. Dreams in the rear view, future's looking bright. Living for the hustle, shining through the night. Feel the beat drop, it's a rhythm in our soul. With every step we take, we're closer to our goal.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Warrior Vetrepreneur Podcast. I appreciate everybody following me along this journey and my recent rebranding from Victory Leaders Lounge to Warrior Vetrepreneur Podcast. The first episode of this should go on Spotify starting next week. The last episode of Victory Leaders Lounge goes up this week. So the episodes that you've seen go live will start going up on Spotify starting next Wednesday. We have Willis here tonight, and he's going to join us on an episode of the Warrior Vetrepreneur Podcast. He's a podcaster himself. Don't forget, wherever you are, to like, subscribe, and make sure you're following me everywhere you go. Willis, how you doing today?
Man, I'm doing all right. How are you, brother?
Well, I'm alive and vertical, so I guess that's a good start.
Yeah, definitely. So
Yes.
I'm waiting for this storm to come through. We're underneath a tornado watch at the present moment in time. So,
So you guys
yeah.
have a tornado, and we're supposed to, in the middle of March, end up with some snow tonight.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I think we're done with the snow right now, but we were major storms came through not too long ago. Luckily, we didn't get any tornadoes out of that one, but as of right now, we're underneath a tornado watch. So we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. Heck yeah, buddy. So, man, I'm glad you're on the show. I really want you to give a good background of yourself, if you wouldn't mind. Tell us, I know you were in the Marine Corps, but tell us what that transition was like, and then how you got into your current career. But more importantly, since this is an entrepreneur type podcast, what brought you to starting your own show, and tell us a little bit about what the mission for that is.
Awesome. Yeah, I can do that for you, man. My name's David Willis. Served in the Marine Corps from 1997 to 01, got out right before 9/11 happened. And then 9/11 happened, got recalled back in. Born and raised in Barstown, Kentucky, where 90% of the world's bourbon's made. Didn't have a great childhood. I'm not going to go into too much detail because that's prior military. I was 0311 in the infantrymen with 2nd Battalion 8th Marines Golf Company, and also 1st Battalion 8th Marines Bravo Company. After I got out of the Marine Corps, I started, like most veterans, I lost that sense of purpose, that sense of camaraderie. So I started volunteering for nonprofits, and I did that for many years. And that was kind of my therapy to, finding like-minded people and being able to give back to our brothers and sisters that are, living on the street or, financial hardship, whatever. We were able to, help them, and which helped me. So I served on a couple boards of a couple nonprofits. The last one that I was on the board of, me and the founder, he's an Army guy. I felt like everything revolved around him, and he wanted to focus on him. So I resigned from the board in 2020. And once again, I went down that rabbit hole. After about 2 years, my wife was like, "Hey, you need to start volunteering and helping veterans again, because your PTSD has got worse, your anger's got worse." So I had thought about doing a podcast, and I bought the microphones, camera, computer, bought everything, right? And I was like, it just sat in the basement, like sat down here collecting dust. And finally, my wife literally put a boot in my butt and said, "Hey, you need to do a podcast. You need to get started on it." So I started researching, and what I found was there was veteran podcasters out there that were bringing in your Purple Heart veterans, your veterans that had a celebrity type story to tell. But what I noticed, that nobody was focusing strictly on nonprofits around the country, the mom and pop, the grassroots ones. Like, they'd bring in the Wounded Warrior, they would bring in Mission 22, they would bring in the big names, like the household name ones, but they weren't focused on the mom and pops, the grassroots ones that still care about the veteran and not the veteran as a number. Of course, everybody's heard the horror stories on the big ones, how, they lost their way along the way. Um, and so that's what I decided to do, was start focusing on the mom and pop grassroots. So I'm scouring the internet, and I started with the local ones that I knew locally that I had been involved with. And I started scouring the internet and reaching out to people and uh, connecting with other veteran podcasters. And that's the whole network. We have to network together. And so I started doing that. And then, I toyed around with, do I want to go as a nonprofit, or do I want to go as an LLC first and establish the LLC so the LLC could fund a nonprofit in the future? So I decided to go with the LLC here in Kentucky. And man, just so we've been an LLC since July of last year. And the podcast is slowly bringing in some money where I can pay for the podcast itself, because that's the whole focus right now, is to make enough money to support the podcast, so it's not coming out of my personal pocket. Because
Sure.
you got to pay for all these different services to support your podcast. So I figured if I can bring in, anywhere between $200, $100 to $200 a month, it can pay for the podcast. So we're at that point now where we're bringing in money and it's going to support itself. And so yeah, that's kind of how I got into podcasting. And it's my therapy. I will tell you, I do lives on Sundays and Mondays, and I get to bring in some great people out there across the country. I've talked to nonprofits in Washington State, upstate New York, Florida, Texas, Montana, Wisconsin, you name it. I've talked to them. And the good thing for me is there's a whole plethora of nonprofits out there that are focusing on the veteran, but also it gets a little tedious because I don't want to put a nonprofit out there that is not doing what they're saying they're doing. So I have to go in, look at their 990, then I have to ask for their articles of incorporation. I have to ask for this, I have to ask for that, just to make sure they're doing what they say they're doing. But I don't mind doing it. Sometimes it gets a little in the way of family time, because I'm trying to, as a one-man show, doing all of this. Of course, I got a co-host, but he gets to ride in the lap of comfort, because he's the gunny.
He's the gunny.
Yeah, he's the gunny, so he gets to hang out and just do the episodes with me, which I don't mind, because I'm a control freak when it comes to the podcast. I want it to go a certain way, but not really, like, when it comes to scheduling a guest and stuff. Not when the guest is on. Like, the guest pretty much runs the show. We asked a couple questions, and the guest you've been on there.
Yep.
And,
Well, I will be on there in June.
Oh, yeah, yours is coming up. That's right. But you've seen my podcast, and
I have
been in the chat, and so we basically, we say, hey, introduce yourself, give us a little bit of background on you, and then we go into their story, their why. But we pretty much let the guests talk, and then we formulate questions off of what the guests say. We don't have a list of 20 questions saying, well, what did you do in the military? Why did you do this? And we don't do that, because we just let the guests do it. So
no, that's smart. I have a similar format here. As you can see, you showed up and we're just chatting. I think it's great to there aren't a lot of veteran podcasts specifically that showcase the nonprofits. I think that's very, very important. There's a VA and all kinds of other programs out there that the government puts out, but they don't really do everything that the service members, the veterans, need all the time. So it's important to highlight those that are going out of their way, and maybe they're paying somebody in their organization, maybe they're not, but their goal is to make sure they're supporting the veteran. So
right.
Thank you for doing that.
Well, thank you. And we look for the ones that like to work with other organizations. I say this all the time. The only way we're going to end the 22, and I'm going to throw 22 in quotation marks there, is if we come together and work together. If you got an organization out there that says, "Oh, I don't want to work with them," or "I don't want to work with them," or "I don't," no, that's not going to work. Because if I go to an organization, right, and they do basket weaving or knitting, and I find out that that's not for me because I got fat fingers and it's hard to do it, and I go up to the founder or one of the board members and say, "Hey, I love what you guys are doing. Unfortunately, it's not working for me. Where can I go?" A founder or board member should say, "Hey, what do you like doing? Oh, you like equine, you like horses, or you like adrenaline." They could say, "Oh, well, I got Ed McLean with Warriors to Races. He does all veteran race car team." Or I can send you to Mended.
Well, we lost Willis. So obviously he is definitely passionate about the nonprofits. Hope he popped back in. Here
Sorry
he
about that.
is.
I'm hoping the storm holds off.
Well,
So
if
what,
if it doesn't,
what did you hear last?
well, you were just talking about how whether it's equine or if it's adrenaline or if it's whatever
Yes.
the case may be, you're diversifying. You're talking about how you're diversifying your list of nonprofits so that you can help somebody with anything.
Yeah, so even like if I went to an organization and they're like, and I find out that it's not working for me, or you go to an organization that's not working for them or for you, you go up to the board member or the founder and say, "Hey, I love what you're doing. It's just not working." They should get you on a phone call with an organization that can help you. That's how we're going to end the 22. And I say it all the time on my podcast: be someone's stranger, right? Because we as humans, we're more apt to talk to a complete stranger than the ones we love the most. So we got to be somebody's stranger. And if you're running a nonprofit and a veteran comes up to you and you say, or they say, this is not working. I love what you're doing. This is not working. Get them connected with somebody that's going to help them, that can what they like doing. So that's where, that's where Homefront comes into play. Is we highlight all these organizations from across the country. I got a Rolodex of numbers. If a veteran calls me and says, "Hey, Willis, I'm struggling right now. I need somebody to talk to," and they're in Kansas, I can go through my phone. "All right, what do you like doing?" "All right, well, I got this guy who is, writing the tip of Texas, but right next to Kansas where you're at. Let me get you on the phone with him right now." So that's what Homefront Sit Rep's all about, is making those connections.
That's absolutely outstanding. I think that the more we all come together, and you talked about the 22 a day, and I'll let you elaborate on it since this is your show. But the more we come together, the less likely it's going to be that these veterans, after their transition or during their transition, have that lack of mission or loneliness, because community is so important.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the statistic right now is that every 88 minutes, a veteran um, succumbs to their demon, and one a day is too many, right?
Mhm.
So having that community, having that tribe, when you get out of the military, and I'll tell you, man, you can have the best family nucleus at home, but we're not going to talk to our family about it at all. We're going to try to protect them as much as we can,
Yep.
and that's where that's where finding your tribe, your community comes into play. And you have to ask the next hard question, because I can walk up to JJ here and say, "Hey, JJ, how you doing today?" And JJ is going to say, "I'm okay. I'm hanging in there. I'm living the dream," even though JJ's tore up inside. But that's when I look him in his eyes and say, "Hey, JJ, how you really doing today?" And then you have to be ready for that conversation. Could be a 5-minute conversation, could be a 5-hour conversation. You just have to
Sure.
be ready for, you have to be that stranger for that person. And don't try to fix them. Just listen to them, and be that ear, be that stranger for them.
Yes. That's important. That's what a lot of people don't do well, is that, you know, us as former service members, us as uh, spouses, us as people, you know, we want to go out there and solve problems. Well, the 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 complicated part of us veterans is that we are on the other side of that, and we don't want anybody solving our shit for us. We are kind of these independent souls that we don't want to burden anybody. So
Yes.
when you go out there saying, why don't you do this? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do this? Well, now you kind of lost us. So if you want that trust, sometimes you got to do like mom or grandma said, and you know, keep your ears open and your mouth shut. That's why you
Yeah.
have 2 ears and 1 mouth.
Yeah, I learned that lesson a long time ago from my uncle. He was a Vietnam Army guy, and he was always the quiet one, always the quiet one. And I remember growing up, and I was out at his place making some homemade wine because we live in Kentucky. He was making some homemade wine. It was Grandpa's, his dad's recipe, right? And I looked at him one day and I said, Uncle Bobby, why are you always so quiet? And he goes, let me tell you a story. He goes, when I was growing up, they always told us to be seen, not heard, right? So I learned a long time ago just to listen. He said, the more you listen, the more you learn. And I've stuck by that motto my whole life. And I tell you right now, I've learned a lot about people just sitting back and watching and listening.
Mhm. Mhm.
And you can tell usually within the first 15 minutes of meeting somebody if they're a good person or not.
Yeah, I tend to
So
agree with that.
that's
Yeah,
that's just sit back and listen.
sit back and listen. I
Yes,
will
sir.
say we have quite a few people tuned in right now. If anybody wants to chime in at any point in this conversation, I absolutely love showcasing the audience just as much as I love showcasing the guests. So don't be shy. I'm not going to hammer that into a head, but I will definitely let you guys know that you are absolutely welcome to be part of the conversation.
Yeah, I'm an
Um,
open book. If you're out there, send a question out there. I'll answer it.
Heck yeah, and I'll put it right up on screen so everybody can see it. Don't be a don't be intimidated by that. It's questions are great. Don't
Yeah,
think you can't ask the question. But
just
you
come
know,
with respect because I give what I get.
yeah. Well, you're talking to an old retired warrant officer here and then a Marine Corps guy. So, you know, the bluntness might come out. But
Yeah, the knife
um
hand might come out too.
the knife hand, oh boy, here we go. But no, so you have this podcast, you know, we still haven't elaborated on the 22 a day, but you did talk about how soldiers are committing suicide every 80 or so minutes right now. That's what the 22 a day is. They claim that every day 22 veterans are committing suicide. Well, you know, I know that on all of our live streams that we're a part of, Willis, that we don't talk about just the veterans. We're talking about the kids of veterans. We're talking about the spouses. So if you really put
And the
everything
parents.
together, and the parents, that you know
Yeah.
anybody who is affected. So when you really take that into consideration and you start grabbing those statistics, that number is significantly higher.
So roughly right now, the last study that I seen, just veterans alone is anywhere between 45 to 55 a day.
Oh,
Uh, and then you throw in the parents, and I think somebody said that the parent was like 11 a day of parents. And then you throw in spouses. The spouses were like 8, 9 a day. And then your children, the children of veterans, was 12, 13 a day. You know, here they are, whether dad is KIA or comes home and becomes part of the Green Star, that's the ones that we have to worry about.
yeah.
22 a day, yes, it affects us as veterans. I might not know the Army guy that's right across the street from me personally, but I know him. And if he decides to go unalive himself, I'm gonna feel that pain because I should have reached out more.
Yeah.
And that with me, my mission is one veteran a day. If I can reach one veteran today, then I did my job.
Yeah. So, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, though, I mean, if somebody wanted to maybe be on your podcast or talk to you about sponsorship or just get to know you as Willis, how would they get a hold of you?
Send me an email, homefrontsitrep@gmail.com. Or you can go to Facebook and find Homefront Sit Rep podcast there. Shoot me a message on Messenger there. Um, so yeah, either there or go to YouTube. Send me a message on YouTube at Homefront Sit Rep on YouTube. Find me on TikTok, Homefront Sit Rep Willis on TikTok. I'm usually on at between 6:15 Eastern Standard Time to normally about 8, 9, 10 o'clock, depending. I'm always on there somewhere. Just shoot me a message and I'll get back to you. And I answer pretty quickly. Speaking of that, I was reached out to. So our community on TikTok, I recently introduced JJ to. I had somebody reach out to me. There's a female veteran in Kansas, bought a house a couple years back. The ceiling is caving in on her and she needs help. She needs assistance. So what did I do? I started making my calls, and hopefully we're going to have somebody out at her place and repairing the damage to her home, within the next week or two is what we're hoping.
My goodness. We win wars and do the whole 9 yards while we're serving on active duty. There's absolutely no reason why a network can't be created where when we're struggling outside of our service that we can't solve the same problems. I mean, my goodness, I have an entire podcast that is dedicated to businesses
Yeah.
in the veteran community. I mean, so if we have nonprofits that you're interviewing, we have businesses that I'm interviewing. And by the way, I never really have a shortage of people that I've been talking to. And I was interviewing businesses on Victory Leaders Lounge, my podcast that this was before it is what it is now. I mean, just think of how much support we can provide to anybody who may need it, no matter where they are in the country. And in some cases, the world, if there are some people serving overseas, still living overseas.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's all about connections and working together. So a few years back, a lot of organizations didn't want to work with other organizations because they were afraid, oh, well, I'm not going to get the same amount of funding if I lose these veterans. And, they would literally call out the other organization and say, well, you took my veterans. Well, here's the problem. I'm my own person. If I want to leave your organization and go to another organization, I'm going to do that. And you can't stop me from doing that because we have to work together. And that 22 a day, man, we have to work together to end that. And then you got all the homeless veterans out there. There's a whole plethora of homeless veterans out there. Now, granted, I know a lot of veterans out there that are homeless that says they would rather be homeless than tied to the man or the system, however you want to look at it. But there are a lot of veterans out there that have fallen on hard times, whether, they lost a job, lost spouse, whatever, and now they're homeless or they're couch surfing, which is still technically homeless, even though they're living in the home, but they're couch surfing. That's another big problem. We shouldn't have homeless veterans out there on the street. We shouldn't have homeless, period, regardless of veteran or not. We shouldn't have homeless people out there. But we, as a race, as a human race, we have to come together to fix these issues. And it's going to take a grassroots movement. All of us coming together, all of us little people coming together and stirring up enough noise that the people in DC pay attention to us. And
then
that starts
and then they'll listen, and it'll take another couple of years for any bill to get passed.
Yeah. Well, it starts at state level. We have to start at our state level. But if 3,000 veterans from Kentucky go up to the state capitol and start talking to our
Oh,
senators
something's
and
gonna happen.
congressmen, something's going to happen.
Yep.
And a lot of times your states can pass laws to protect veterans. I know here in Kentucky, David Yates, Senator Yates for Kentucky, he's he's not a veteran, but he's got family members that are veterans. He's a veteran supporter, and he's trying to pass some bills right now to help veterans in Kentucky. So
And that process is a heck of a lot faster. You know, we have stuff like that happening here. I'm not going to give my opinion of the Iowa government, but we'll just kind of leave that one alone. I'm glad you have a great person at the head over there in Kentucky. I mean, my
yes, sir.
goodness, Texas, Kentucky, there are just a few states out there that, you know, when it comes to the red, white, and blue, and anybody that protects it, they're just going to hook you up.
Yeah. And you know what? There are all across the country, there are representatives from each state,
Mhm.
and you just got to find the one from your state that
Yeah, we have a couple.
is a veteran supporter, and
Yep.
it just takes one, and that person's probably got somebody's ear, and then they got somebody else's ear, so it just takes one, and you just got to start talking to them. Don't be
That's how
scared.
you make stuff happen.
Yeah, don't be scared. The best piece of advice I ever got was don't be afraid to ask because all they can say is no.
That's true. That's
So,
true. And the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
yes, sir. Yes,
That's right.
sir.
So I have to ask this one question because we're already at almost 27 minutes here.
Dang,
But
that was fast.
oh my gosh, the time goes by super fast. But that's okay. I mean, this is like a snapshot into somebody's life so that they can potentially choose whether or not they want to get to know that person. But
There you
if
go.
you had a piece of advice for anybody in my audience, just one piece of advice, what would that be?
One piece of advice:
Could be anything.
never give up. Be
Never give
your
up.
own and be your own advocate. You're especially at being veteran. You're going to get told no time after time after time. You just have to keep fighting. Never give up. Be your own advocate because nobody's going to fight for you better than you. So you have to be your own advocate and never give up. So I'm 40% rated right now from the VA, right? Just started my journey last year, and um, my wife was like, "Well, that's all you need." I'm like, "No, I started this journey. I'm hitting 100, and I'm gonna keep fighting until I get 100."
Especially when you know that you have the conditions that can give you the rating, and
Yes, sir.
there are people out there that are in much better shape than you are that have that rating. And you know that you had things happen when you were on active duty. It
Yes, sir.
just makes you want to push that
Yeah,
much harder.
yeah,
And they call it a benefit for a reason.
yeah,
It's not a benefit because, you know, you might have access to it or what. No, it's a benefit because you had the problem
yep,
and the government provides the support.
yep,
And if you don't, and this is the unfortunate thing, if you don't fight for that benefit, you're not going to get the support.
yeah, yeah,
The whole system, just like any other system that's out there, is designed to push away the 90%. That way, that 10% can that by the way, all of the entire 100% should be getting the rating they deserve, but
yes,
only
sir.
10% will actually achieve that desired result.
Yeah, I met a Vietnam era vet not too long ago. He was 78 years old. Never filed for his VA benefits ever.
Ever.
And we got him set up, and a month later he was 100% rated from the VA. A month later, and it was like, bro, why didn't you do this sooner? He goes, man, there was other veterans out there that needed it more than I did. I was like, no, that's where you're wrong, because I was under the same impression. I was like, I had a good job. I had health insurance. My wife and kids had health insurance. I didn't think I needed to go to the VA. And, I still to this day is like, well, why didn't I do this sooner? So never give up, be your own advocate and keep pushing, man. And
Yep.
if you if you can't find the right way to go, reach out to me. Send me an email, homefrontsitrep@gmail.com. And I would put it in chat, but I can't because it says it's only for you to. But yeah, homefrontsitrep@gmail.com. Reach out to me. Say, hey, I'm having struggles. I got a lady down in Florida, Miss Monica Sanford. She's partnered with Homefront Sit Rep. All I got to do is send her an email, or you can send her an email, and say, hey, this is what I got going on. She will help you navigate the process of getting your benefits. So if you have if you want a second opinion, or if you just have questions, you can email her. At it's askmonica0@gmail.com, and she will answer your question. Just to say, hey, Willis sent me to you. Or you can email me, links right there in chat right now, or scrolling across the bottom screen. Reach out to me, say, hey, I need to get connected with Monica, and I'll connect you right away. And she responds within 15 minutes to an hour, depending on. She is a nurse by her day job. She won the 2024 Nurse Practitioner of the Year. So she's a bad butt. I didn't want to say the A word, but she's a baddie. And her husband is a lieutenant colonel, retired United States Marine Corps. She was a key wife. So she knows the ins and outs, and she works hand in hand with the VA, helping veterans get their benefits.
Wow. And you know what? I bet she is a master networker, man. Anyone who's an officer's wife on active duty that probably served as the second, I'll call it the second in command, because even though the first sergeant might be, the first sergeant might be, and the sergeant major might be the second in command, but really the one who gets all the word out is that military spouse at home.
Yes, the key wife.
You already know it. Yes, the key wife. Oh, correct.
And she is awesome. She's very knowledgeable. I had a guy reach out to me from TikTok, Anthony. I ain't gonna say his last name, but he kept getting denied his benefits in Mass, what the state that he lives in. He kept getting denied. And I said, hey, reach out to Monica. And they set up a Zoom call, and he's going through the process again now. He's already got a partial rating. So, he was denied before. So yeah.
Stick around after we end this podcast, because I need to talk to you about somebody that I know that I might need to refer her way as well. But awesome. Anyway, you that's how it goes, man. When you're networking, this is, something sparks, and now you're moving things forward for somebody else.
Yes, sir.
But that's anyway. Yep. Well, thank you, Willis, for being a guest. Thank you, everybody, for following me. Oh, yeah, of course, man. I enjoyed it, and I look forward to yours as well. But thank you, everybody in my audience, for following me during my journey of podcasting. I've only been doing it for about a little over a year now, about a year and 4 months. So it's been a fun journey. Please like the videos wherever you see them. Subscribe to the channel, especially if you're on YouTube. But the most important thing is to put a comment below the video wherever you see it, so that we can keep the conversations going. Thank you, everybody, and we will see you next time.